guys, just a heads up for this episode. Walker Hayes is amazing. We are not. We forgot to hit record on Zoom. I'm not even gonna bullshit my way through this. It happens. I'm sorry. Once again, our apologies. Bear with us. And this episode is amazing, so check it out.
What's your life goal, and have you achieved it?
Yeah, I married you.
Aw, gross.
You really need to go out there and make sure the whole world hates you.
My butthole is all over the internet.
A fine wine, she keeps me in the basement and pulls me out when she needs me.
If I drink Sambuca, he's getting it.
I bought a case.
Can tell a lot about a person by the way their tits, pussy, or dick looks.
You come near my cheeks and it's not going to be a good day for you, homie. This is going to be special.
Welcome to the Two Onions podcast with Dani Daniels and Vic.
Don't you guys love, whenever, I think it's usually more male, sorry Vic, than female, when guys get broken up with, or when, somebody makes like an offhanded comment about their performance, and they love to say things like, "What? I've had no complaints."
No, yeah.
Well, are you still with her? Because if not, that's the complaint. Like, there was no
also,
exit interview.
One night stand and be like, "How was it good for you?" No, it was fucking trash.
Hey, I'm not going to sit with you and give you tips on how to be better for the next girl. I've just decided you're awful and I'm leaving.
Exactly.
I'm just not answering your calls forever.
There's no survey says like, I'm just going to, thank you for your time, rifle through your wallet and go.
Yeah, exactly. Is that a Rolex?
Oh my gosh. So what made you what made you move from New York to Atlanta?
Weirdly, I did that right before, so I've kind of never felt better about the timing of a move. It took a lot to leave New York. You guys know. I mean, once you're a New Yorker, I think we all have that mindset, and I used to do a lot of jokes about this, about the mindset that you can never leave because there's so many people rooting for you to fail.
Right.
All your friends from back home that are still, in picket fence land, and all the people that are like, go, 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 secretly, they're like, crash and burn. If you have any kind of following, you have legit followers, and then you have people that follow you just relishing anytime you let on that anything is amiss, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And far as being a New Yorker, it's such a massive emotional commitment as far as financial. So, when you are getting ready to go, you're aware, like, people are going to be like, you couldn't hack it or whatever. Like,
yeah.
And I don't care what industry you're in. That's just, people know that New York is a huge undertaking. So when you leave, people are going to formulate some form of opinion about the why.
Right.
It's usually going to be in your favor, like, good on you, you figured out the tax bracket. Like, they don't give a fuck that you're smart and you're like, I'm going to save, $30,000 a year not living here. They just want you to be like, well, it got the best of me. Y'all were right.
Exactly.
I'm going to go cry in the corner.
Yeah. So I left because I'll actually admit that. I mean, it did get the best of me. I just found myself sort of living Groundhog's Day, which is super easy to do as an entertainer. I felt like I drank more than I didn't, which is super fun when you're doing it in celebration, and way less fun when you're doing it out of habit. And not that I was getting like wasted, but if you're performing 5+ nights a week, and I was always, because of my persona and my jokes, people anticipate that I will stay and drink with them. Yeah. So, it's Monday night and it's 3 a.m. and I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
exactly.
Why am I here?
That's so I can get up and do the same thing tomorrow.
Yeah. And I just, I think at a point you have to be realistic with yourself. And so I knew that it wasn't, I'm so bad at saying no. And I knew that I had just built myself into a schedule and an expectation where I wasn't going to be able to get healthy and really get serious about other things besides performing if I didn't, change. They say that like when you are like trying to actually get clean, which I'm not, and I think that's awful, but if you are, different faces, different places, and there's a lot to be said for that. You got to change your environment. When I moved to Atlanta, nobody expected me to do anything. I could have shown up there and been like, oh, that's all an act and I'm dead sober and I haven't had a drink in years. Nobody would have cared. or just go anywhere that people actually drive. Because in New York, we don't drive. So
Yeah.
you're not allowed to just be like, I don't want to be drunk.
Right.
I'll walk into the subway. Who the hell cares if you pass out on the F train and end up in Coney Island?
You get shit faced and walk home. Worst case
Yeah,
scenario.
worst case, right.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
literally, if you needed to, you could
You're
walk to
like-
Staten Island. If you really,
You could, yeah. And
Whereas like when you're somewhere else, you're like, oh God, do I really want to drink tonight? Like, do I feel like doing an Uber thing, or am I just gonna say screw it? I just want to drink. Like,
well, not for nothing, but also in New York, your odds of making it home, like not, in terms of putting you on a train or putting you on foot is actually way more dangerous.
oh yeah.
Put me in a car where at least I know I'm drunk and I'm paying a lot of attention. When I'm walking or on the train, I'm like, anybody could be coming to eat my face and I wouldn't know because I feel the safety of not driving.
There's a lot. New York has its own culture of everything. I mean, you don't go pick a date up. You meet a date.
Yeah.
There's no, hey, I'll pick you up at 3. No, it's like, hey, I'll meet you at the bar at 3:00.
That's a really good point. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, a nice bad date. You just bail.
Yeah. You don't drive the date home. At the best, like maybe you share an Uber if you really like the person, but
right. I've actually been there like with guy friends that are like waiting on a date to show up, and they're like, wait here, and if she shows up and she's a monster, you have to like get me out of it kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, that wouldn't work in any other city, right? Because you don't casually run into people in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, she was just randomly out on Friday.
Is this the hot spot in Milwaukee? Like, no, like
exactly. Yeah.
Don't buy that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, you've traveled, we travel. There is no place like New York, and sadly, it's hurting right now, and I'm sure it'll bounce back. But there's still no place like New York.
Yeah, I mean, so I left just because I needed to, and there was an opportunity for me to start a production company down there, which I still think will be great one day, perhaps not right now, when Netflix is canceling shows because of COVID. And I'm like, wow, Netflix, who has all the money in the fucking world, is like, we don't want to do it. And I'm like, well, how about us? We've never made anything, but we'll count your money and we'll tell you what we can do with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be weird for a while, so I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Well, it's month to month. It's month to month. You have no idea what the hell next month's going to bring. You have no idea what the month after that's going to bring. And January might as well be freaking 40 years from now. I mean, it's just so far away.
Do you guys have the friends that like they keep talking about life as if it starts in 2021? And I'm not saying there's no merit to that, but I'm like, that is literally, you're basically saying that for the next 4 months, you're just sure that you're going to be alive. That's a huge gamble.
Yeah.
It's a huge gamble. If somebody told you, like, okay, tell you what, from September to December, just, you know what, just go to bed.
Mail it in. Just mail it in.
You get up in January, you'd be like, first off, I know.
First off, they were saying this in like
March.
April.
Yeah.
Remember? We had 2 weeks.
2020 is canceled. Yeah, you're like, dude, like it's April.
However, the Kardashians are off the air in 2021, so it's already off on a good note. We've already kicked off 2021 better than 2020.
That's like my favorite game to play, is to get like drunk, like real drunk, and then go trolling the Kardashians with just the same comment over and over. You don't look like that. You don't look like that. Oh, you also don't look like that. And I don't care what the picture is. I know you don't look like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a lot of Photoshop going on there. But.
Okay, so can we talk about your special that you're shooting? Secret.
We can. So it's perfect for me because I don't, in the era of COVID, I'm not required to bring anybody. No one's allowed to go, so I don't have to sell any tickets. There's zero pressure.
Is that how it usually works? You just have to sell the tickets?
Yeah, there's a certain level. Well, you want the house filled, so I'm sure like there's certainly people get to a certain level of fame and that's done for them and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't fall in that category. but also just the pressure in general to film with people. We've all probably watched a special or two where that the audience conceivably is fans and friends, and they still don't get laughs.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, and you released that. That's awful.
Yeah.
So
is it easier, like if you're like, oh, I know it's full of my friends, so it's an easier crowd to perform to than just...
I actually don't think so.
Oh, really?
I do not. My take on it is, and I have performed for, the biggest crowds that I've performed for would be about 2,000 people. And I would say, of course there's nerves, but there's nerves for 20 people if 10 of them are my friends and family.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're there, like they know me and they are analyzing this shit. I mean, they know 2,000 strangers, you never want to have a bad set, but if I have a bad set, I'm never fucking seeing these people again.
Yeah, that's
right,
true.
exactly.
They're not going to be like, see you at the bar, but like, remember when you bombed 6
Yeah. And I've had that experience repeatedly. My dad is like my favorite person to talk about that. My dad is not, he's a fun loving guy, but far as I go, like, he will be in the audience like, and I'll get off stage and he'll be like, well, how you could have done that is,
Oh, great.
and I'm just, the first time that I did like my oral sex jokes, like, and I had to, when they first started coming to see me perform, I did very clean comedy because I was so in my head and so nervous. And then when I was actually performing in Baltimore, I was like, I can't do clean comedy in Baltimore. I'll look like such an asshole, like such a blue town. Like I gotta, and I was doing so well that I got ahead of myself and started doing dick sucking jokes and all this shit, totally forgetting that my father is in this audience. and then it's over and I'm like, oh, I have to ride with him. Oops. I mean, now they've heard it a million times, but at that point, it's like, yeah, I mean, there's an element to the people that are there to support you and really care about you. They are going to tell you like, I didn't buy this or this. I remember in the early days, I had finance coworkers that came and saw a show, and I did a whole bunch of cocaine jokes and whatever. Yeah. And at the end of the show, I remember one of my like superiors being like, it's hard to laugh because I know none of that's true. And internally I was like,
not true at all.
Yeah, but there's an example of somebody that like he has a stake in it not being true. So he, if he was a total stranger, he would enjoy it more versus deciding if these things are based on reality or whatever. So personally, I enjoy myself more when I know nobody versus when I have like good friends there. It's still fun, but I definitely have higher stakes for myself because I want them to think I'm funny.
Yeah. Well, this will be good because it'll just be you in a room with no one.
But don't you lose aren't you going to lose energy?
Yeah,
I mean, don't you lose that,
I don't know exactly how it is going to be done, to be honest. And I didn't ask because I think I'd rather not know until, we...
So you don't get in your head and yeah.
I imagine it's still probably going to be, of course, it'll be crew and there are other comics that will be performing. And I imagine we will all be somewhat around. And if I were producing it, I would be like, everyone needs to laugh. Like it's the funniest shit you've ever heard. Just keep each other going, which is what we do on like Zoom shows right now. I don't do a lot of them, but you tell other comics stay on and laugh for your peers because a lot of people, it's hard to know what to do, right? Like as to whether or not you let them have their sound on and laugh, or you tell them mute your shit because Aunt Sally forgets that she's, and she starts having a conversation with the dog in the middle of your set and completely forgets that you can hear all that. So it's a balance, I think. I don't know if there's going to be bodies of people just affiliated with the taping already. Mm-hmm. But I don't really care because I think as long as I know that it's being taped in the time of this. So if nothing else, I can point to that and be like, it would have been a great special, but it was COVID time. So, I was really funny, but everyone was wearing masks that muffled their faces.
Exactly.
And you really couldn't tell.
I wonder if it's gonna be like a sitcom where like you have to pause for joke, like for like track
Laugh track.
laughter.
Oh God, laugh track. That's just what you need.
I mean, to be honest, I did a show at the Cutting Room. I don't know if you guys have ever been there. It's on like 7th and Park, super awesome venue. And I did a show there and it was sold out. It was amazing. And they had a camera crew and I looked cute and everything went great. And I remember being like, yay! Because a lot of times you have a great set, you don't tape it, or you tape and everything goes wrong kind of thing. You're not as funny, you're not as confident. So it just was like all the perfect things. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be such usable stuff. But what happened was I was mic'd, the stage was mic'd, and none of the audience was mic'd. So it literally sounds like when you play it back that no one laughed like ever the whole time. You can hear very muffled reaction, but mostly you hear me loud and clear, which is great, but there's no audience reaction. And so because it had been such a genuinely good set and everything about beautiful lighting, packed house, I went to an editor and I was like, can you put in a laugh track? He's like, you just don't want me to do it. No matter how organic I could make it feel, someone will pick up on it and it'll just ruin your career. Like, just best to send it off and explain the audio error, because as soon as you try to add laugh track, like, it just ruins the flow of it. So I have tried. I have looked into explaining to people I'm very funny. I was advised against it.
I swear I'm funny.
I swear. It sounds like Three's Company, but it's not.
Listen, bad MASH episode with a laugh track. Yeah. It's like,
Oh my God. Do you have any favorite cities you can perform in when you can? When you're not stuck at home.
Yeah. I'm like, what are cities? Are we allowed to go places? We're not.
We're not.
I would say I do love performing in Maryland. Just there's a comfort here. So performing in Baltimore is always good. And then surrounding areas, DC is great. The difference between those two is night and day, even though we're so close. DC is much more cerebral crowds and much more, I would say the bar is almost higher, though I don't want to diss Baltimore. But Baltimore, I've seen DC comics down here and do their most educated material. It's super funny and they eat all the dicks. And then I've watched Baltimore comics go to DC and do their bluish jokes, and the DC people just sit there appalled, the whole time. So it's fun to perform here because of the nuances of the little spots, which is almost true in New York too.
Yeah.
They say that Brooklyn comics, right? Your alternative comics versus your club comics can really just misread. So I like this area for that. But I mean, I would say, being on the road, I think it's always going to be the most fun when you just throw away the fact that you're on the road and you just do you and you let them come to you. I used to, in my early days, I wanted to tell jokes about the town and whatever. And not that I don't do any of that, but I used to really tailor my stuff. And I stopped doing that because I think for them, it's almost like, oh darn, like we wanted to see like what you were about, and now it's more about what we're about, and we already know what we're about.
right.
So any town that wants to have fun, and usually the towns that most want to have fun are the boonies. They're so excited that they're not at Walmart. They want to have the best time. So I would say, in general, if I can do like, a step below a big city, like a larger town, or the absolute middle of nowhere where everyone in the town is there.
That's the thing. That's the Friday night thing to do. The ends. That's it.
That's what she always says about strip clubs. The best strip clubs were in the middle of nowhere because there was nothing else for them to do. So
100%. 100%.
Yeah, and it was wild and fun, and like no one gave a shit. Like it was just like, you didn't get like that stuffy crowd. You got everyone that was like, the Yeehaw Weekenders, and I was into it. Like,
yeah, they're so amazed that you're there, and they're having so much fun. There's so much like less pretense to that, right? Like because you guys have been all over the world, so when you go to Europe and whatever, there's stereotypes for a reason, as far as like the French are snotty, they hate us, and the British have their own brand of humor, and it's like there's truth to all those things. So if you can figure out a way to ingratiate yourself but then do you, that's your best bet.
Yeah.
That's your best bet, is to be you, while like first off being like, cheerio. And by the way, I'm going to pretend to whack off a dog on stage. And now that I've said cheerio, I know you're done with it.
We're good. It's all good. So when's the special due out? What's the schedule for that?
So we tape, I will be in New York the 2nd through the 4th taping. And then I believe the release is later in that month. So it's being done through a company that's launching their own channels. They're launching their own like social media platforms and things. So I'm one of, I think, 5 or 6 comics that they're kicking off with like exclusive content kind of thing.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, for me, it's like I never would have sought this out, and people have asked me for a long time, like, why do you not have a special? And I'm like, well, an hour is a long time. I don't know if you know this, but there's lots of people that are funny for 25 minutes, and an hour is pushing it. And I would just rather have people always ask me why I haven't done it than do it. And people are like, why'd you do that?
It's a different question then, yeah.
That was really premature.
I don't know, man. You were funny for the full hour on the TV show.
Actually, that was longer. That was 2.5 hours of filming and almost an hour and 45.
I had so much fun on that show. I had so much fun working on that show, not even being on it. I still will, comment to people, and I still now and then we'll keep in touch with Small Hands. To ask him, like, how are you enjoying Joanna's new boobs and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think it's super, anytime you can be part of a completely different world, like, yay.
Just for those who are listening, Walker was the casting director for Dinner with Dani, which is a TV show on Amazon that features my wife and numerous other adult film stars, and usually a comic. And in this case, it was the male performers. It was the only show we did with male performers. And it's probably, I've got to say, the funniest of all of them, by far.
I had the best time. I thought everyone was super hysterical. But also just, in terms of that, like, I had so many people hit me up and they're like, where can I find your scenes? Which I didn't even know what that meant until I started being like, nowhere. Sorry.
The Comedy Cellar on Tuesday.
I guess we lured you in with false pretenses. My bad.
They're on Pornhub, like Walker.
Is it H-A-Y-S or is there an E in there? Maybe
I was going to say, which must be so confusing because there's already Walker Hayes with an E that's a male country music singer. And I get so many like pissed off fans of his at things. I've done a couple festivals where they've spelled it wrong. People always are spelling Hayes wrong. I spell it without an E. The country musician spells it with an E. And they'll send me like a copy of the flyers or the promo materials, and it's Hayes. And I'm like, hey, I'm not a diva, but just so you know, if people think you've got country musician Walker Hayes, they'll start telling me how they're going to come kill my parents in the middle of the night because I don't know how to sing with twang.
Yes, I've never picked up a steel guitar.
That wasn't the Walker Hayes you said it was gonna be. She wasn't even remotely a boy.
Did you see the
I don't think.
Walker Hayes is transformed.
I would. I mean, whatever sells tickets, but yeah.
It's like a bad Blues Brothers scene. We got both kinds of music.
A little Sharpie adding E, like to sell tickets. Like, yeah, come in.
Oh, 100%. Well, and so I work with this group that does, they do charity things for the troops, raising money for troops and families of troops and whatever. And so they have obviously like a very large country musician loving following, as you would expect, in terms of
Yeah.
people who support the troops. And they hit me up recently and they were like, oh, we have to have like our big gala virtually, but would you want to, but we have Walker Hayes doing it. Like, would you want to do it? And I was like, oh my God,
That would be
let's
amazing.
introduce Walker Hayes.
Yes.
That's all I
Walker
wanted to
Hayes,
do.
Walker Hayes.
I was like, I'll pay you. I just want to do it. Like, just for, because it's been a thing for weirdly, we have sort of the same career trajectory. He's much more known in his circles than I am in mine. But in terms of like, when I first became aware of him, he was, playing state fairs and things like that. And we're like roughly the same age and all those kinds of things. So it's been kind of fun to watch, like, him go from just dude that I knew because of his name, and now I'm like, oh, everybody knows who that is. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
Except he's still more famous than me, and I hate that.
You're not even in the same entertainment industry.
No, and his people, I think, a friend of mine told me, because like it used to be if you Googled me, like certain sketches and things would come up, but now if you Google me, it's like, oh, you meant Walker Hayes with an E. And it just brings up all of his like performances, and I'm like, bro, we're not even in the same thing. Can't you let people laugh at me like pretending to eat box on stage?
Let a girl live.
Dang. And he's married and he has 5 children. Is probably.
I was gonna say, it would be funny if he wasn't married and he was like your soulmate. and together.
5 children.
That's 5 too many.
That's yeah. Well, you get now you get stuff to answer.
I want to ask one more question. What? One more. Do you think it's difficult being sexy as a comedian? Because you're very hot and you're very sexy. Like, is that something where you're like, oh, it's kind of a perk, or do you think it's harder to prove yourself?
I get asked like some form of this, and I think there's also just like criticism in general. I mean, I would say it's a perk. It's a perk in virtually everything to be attractive, right? Like, you're not going to show up to most things and they're going to be like, I'm sorry, you're not visually offensive enough for this role. Like, there's some benefit. Now after the fact, do you have to kind of, win people over? Sure. But yeah, I think in general, it's not because I think boiling it down to attractive versus unattractive is more minutia versus how difficult is it to be female, how difficult is it to be, I think there's broader things that play into that. And I just try to use it to my advantage. Like, you're going to get booked on things by pervy dudes that want to throw you a bone.
Literally.
And that's all good. Like, I would be completely lying if I said I didn't get a lot of breaks, especially early on, because of that. And then I just try to earn them retroactively. Like, the bar is probably pretty low. I know for me, when I see a very pretty girl get on stage, I don't have high hopes, but I want her to really crush it. And I take note of what to do.
Doesn't scream sex appeal to me usually. So like,
yeah, and I was going to say, I think the overall mindset is changing. Like, you could point to, like, in your industry, Romy Rain was interviewed by Business Insider not long ago, and I read the thing, and I thought she had a good point of, like, adult entertainers get treated like, but it's like, well, if that was true, and if they were such pariahs, then there wouldn't be a crossover. They would only be accepted on, traditional channels. And that just flatly isn't the case. There's huge TikTok and Instagram followings, as you know, and that doesn't only come from people that watch porn. It can't.
Yeah.
Statistically speaking, it cannot. So, I think that's true of everything. There's definitely females, especially in my industry personally, that were like, oh, I'd advise you to back off and you want to be taken seriously. And what I've noticed is once they reached a point of being taken seriously, they started flatly mimicking a lot of the shit that I did, when it was like, oh, I don't know if that's, and now they have showing their butt and whatever. I'm here for it, but I did it before I was told it was a bad idea.
Well, that's like in the industry, like now with everyone doing OnlyFans, like me,
right.
like me, one of my good friends, Sheree DeVille, we always joke, we're like, we had OnlyFans before it was cool and socially accepted.
You had the best TikTok about that. I forget what movie you took the audio from that was like, you're gonna go in here and get money and leave, and I thought that was so funny.
It's from Ocean's 11, where they're like, we're just gonna walk in and So,
Yeah.
It's true. Like now it's like OnlyFans, you have like all these people doing it.
And so I'll parallel that with like all, again, like females that gave me shit, and they and talent aside, I'm like, okay, you can be the best joke writer, for sure you can, but if you draw people in with pretty pictures and pretty thoughts, then you start sharing your tweets and whatever. And like I said, one of my biggest, like, I would say, people that gave me the most shit about it, that now like flatly basically steals like content that, but I'm like, see, I was correct. Like you did your, and even said at one point, like, oh, I know not everybody thinks it's feminist to show this or that, but it got me to 10,000 fans. And this is years ago now, because now she's way over that. But I remember thinking, right, so just call a spade a spade. People like pretty things. It's not an either or. You don't have to just be, no, you can. I mean, if you just want to be a beautiful face, I'm here for that too. But don't sit here and tell me that you're getting 125,000 followers on Instagram, the visual medium, with just pictures of your tweets. I just flatly don't buy it.
I agree. Just like own it. Like, I completely agree. So, and it sucks because there is the thing of like, like having someone copy you is a compliment, but it's just like, okay, but like, don't shame me. And then, but you can just, I mean,
I say it feeling in my soul. It's true, but we're all a derivative of something. Like, was I the first person to show my butt and be like, Monday? Like, no.
You're right.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and take credit for the idea of being like cute and self-deprecating. Like, do you? But I am here to be like, stop shitting on each other. Who cares? I never understood why anybody cares about other people doing. Just do no harm. Like whatever's going to make you feel good, and then just bow out of it. All you have to do is keep moving. Just don't like it, but also don't talk trash.
Exactly.
Well, most people are just they're miserable. They want to make sure that you're miserable too.
Sure. And I tell you, the best way to make sure that I'm miserable is to like literally not give me any attention at all.
Right.
At all.
I need
commenting. Even if you're DMing me what a hoe bag I am, I'm like,
I got you.
Need to tell me that.
Give me
something, right?
Yeah, give me a few more comments and maybe I can get 3 minutes out of this.
She's trash. She only gets fat because of her boobs. I'm like, so?
Post her butt, I'm gonna be like, boo.
I mean, to me, it's like, look, you can say whatever in terms of getting your foot in the door of any other industry, but even in your industry, you might get the gig, but if you're terrible on set, if you're terrible on stage, it's not gonna last. I don't care how beautiful you are, how sexy you are, how kind you are. You still have to eventually produce the good, so to speak, whatever it is. So use whatever you got to get there, but then you do have to be funny, or you do have to be talented or whatever. So
exactly.
Yeah, it's like beauty and charm will get you in the door, but talent and brains keep you there. It's just
So I don't know. I mean, I think as far as like being cute being a detriment, which was what you asked me 25-30 minutes ago, I can talk all day about nothing. I could tell you about this lampshade for 2 hours. I think it's an absolute blessing, provided that you use it as the catalyst to do other things. Even if you're just trying to be a model or whatever, it only takes you so far. So it should be a really great precursor to what else you can do.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
All right, you ready for my questions?
I'm ready.
All right. Your first question. What's the most annoying question people ask you?
What is the most? Oh my God. You mean like Texas Ranger?
Oh.
Are you named for Chuck Norris?
I never I have never even thought of that until you just said that.
That would be the most annoying. I no longer react to it because I know people mean well, but I've literally heard it 85,000 times.
Jesus. I never thought that either. But
I
I'm like,
never thought. Now it's stuck in my head.
Because you guys are not like super simple. I'm like, do you genuinely, with all good thoughts aside, do you really think my mother and father were like, what's a mildly entertaining yet awful television show that might inspire us to name our baby? TJ Hooker? No, let's go with Walker. Texas Ranger, but we won't say Texas Ranger. We'll just use the first part.
And the smart ones will get it.
I kind of want to be like, no, you're right. My sister's name is Karate. After Karate Kid, but they just use the first part.
Oh, God. What is your favorite way to eat a potato?
That's a great question. Favorite way to eat a potato? Well, I gotta give props to Maryland. My favorite way would be to make it into a fry, cook it in peanut oil, douse it in vinegar and Old Bay and ketchup.
Old Bay. Yeah. I was waiting for the Old Bay being.
Yeah, Old Bay and ketchup makes everything better.
It's really good.
What would the title of your autobiography be? It can't be Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be Walker, Texas Ranger.
I can't believe I lived long enough to write a book. Or I can't believe I got a check to write this book.
That's even better. What's been the biggest turning point in your life so far?
That's an easy, albeit long-winded question, so I'll try to compress it. The biggest turning point in my life was definitely getting dumped by a famous comedian.
Really?
Changed my life, yeah. I won't indulge it too much. Within my circles and within the industry, it would be known. But yeah, that changed everything because it both pissed me off enough to light a fire for me to want to be, more successful. But it also came with a lot of its own consequences. We were supposed to move in together, so it left me homeless. And I think I just was so emotionally coasting off of, I had gotten out of something and so had he, and that's what drew us together. And we never should have been a pair, and we were. And I think instead of addressing all the things I should have addressed after my first breakup, I didn't, and it just compounded. So then when that happened, I had to make a lot of changes because I was broke and homeless, and I had to figure out how I got there. And I don't know that I would have done those things if I hadn't been in that position.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty amazing, actually. What are you most proud of?
That's why. That's a wild story. Sorry.
I know Danny's asking things like, what about this heart-wrenching thing? And Vic's like, if you were a potato, what kind of potato would you be?
They get better. You still have more to go.
What I'm most proud of, this is the point where I say my kids and my husband that I don't have, right?
Yeah. Go get one of those Walmart frames and just hold it up.
Like not being homeless would be good.
Not being homeless would be good. I would say what am I most proud of? I think I'm the most proud of having an impact on other people, which I hear a fair amount, and not just through comedy. Making people laugh is great, but I do a lot of, like Dani does the same thing, kind of interlacing, spiritual and uplifting with boobs. We're such soulmates.
I was like, now that I have your attention.
Yeah. And by the way, Gandhi is one of the greatest leaders of all time.
Incredibly accurate.
It's true. It is nice, especially if someone sees it and then they write you something sweet. It's nice to bring happiness to someone in some ways.
Yeah, I think so. Recently, my old boss from T. Rowe Price from my finance days commented on a post and was like, gosh, I so needed to hear this kind of thing. And so it's stuff like that. I think I'm the most proud of I guess encouraging people to never give up, because as far as it goes, the better thing to do, the more I think where you're going to find your most success, as it were, is in being willing to evolve yourself with your goals. You know, your goals change over time. At one point, I wanted to be, you know, a super famous actress and a touring comedian and all those things. I mean, touring, like, you know, selling out Madison Square Garden kind of thing. And while those things would still be great, you know, with time, I've just evolved. Like, what do I think would still be good, and I don't feel that I'm a failure because success looks different than I thought it would, kind of thing. So encouraging other people to, you know, let go of the how and focus on the why of something. You know, for me, like when I was homeless, I went from being homeless to having the nicest apartment I'd ever had in my life, like the most expensive, nicest place ever. And you know, and I don't live there now, and that's okay too. Like now I live in a different city, and that, you know, but if I had said, oh, success only looks like if I own a house or whatever, I wouldn't have been able to appreciate to your point, like that was a huge deal to go from sleeping at my office and having to be packed up and look like I wasn't there by 7:30 a.m. every day, to, you know, living in the most expensive neighborhood in Manhattan. That was a huge deal. And that wouldn't have happened if I said, well, I'm not going to be happy unless I own a house or unless I whatever. So most proud of being able to grow and evolve myself and encourage other people to do that too.
Yeah. That's great. I don't know if it's happened to you, but like, I've also experienced where you think like, oh, if I get to this point in life, I'll be that success. And then you like will hit that and you're like, yeah, but now my life has changed and I want different things. Like it kind of just like pushes out, like what you were saying is like, I didn't think this is what I wanted, but now that I'm here, it's like amazing.
Well, and your friend Sherry DeVille like posted not long ago about how, you know, she feels like, you know, refresh me if is she 40 now?
Yeah.
So she was saying like from 20s to 30s to 40s, and just like how she never expected she would be like so happy about that and like reflect positively. I'm paraphrasing, but that was like the gist of it. And I know, and I piled on and was like, yeah, like it's, I mean, I really do feel like every approximately 2 to 3 years, I'm a totally different person for the better. Like I was a ton of fun in my 20s for sure. And I was a ton of fun in my 30s and whatever. But you know, then I appreciate being able to, by the way, I'm just 40. I don't want anyone thinking I'm like 185 years old. But yeah, I was like,
she thought you were younger than her.
I thought you were younger than I was.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I'm not even joking. She thought you were younger than her.
Oh yeah. I turned I turned 40. And I was terrified of that for a really long time, not because I, you know, physically, which is so kind. And I do get it a lot. Like people think I'm 28 or whatever, but more because I thought by this time I should have done this and this and this.
Right.
And then when I started really just, you know, recognizing so many people look at me and go, I never did any of the things you did. And and I've done all the things that you think you should have done. And it's a different feeling. Like, I think you just have to keep always your baseline should be, am I actually happy? So if you're happy, then, you know, it doesn't matter what age that is, what year that happens, whatever. There's lots of things I didn't get, and it still probably would have been cool. But I know people that got them that are miserable.
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for.
That get stuff later in life. There's not like a time stamp of like, you have to achieve this by this. Like you can get that later. You can get that at 75. Like you never know, you know, what the world holds. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely thought at this time that I would be like deeply immersed in being a touring comic, and that, you know, I would have my own sitcom and all those things. And I'm not saying I don't want those things, but I am saying like, I no longer feel like if I don't get those things, you know, for example, like being a perpetually touring comic, which is what I was up until the last year. I just thought that's what we would do always. And now I couldn't be any less interested in that, not because it's not fun and helpful and whatever, but because I really value having my own schedule and picking the places I want to go and spending a majority of my time with family now. just means more to me than spending a majority of my time with strangers. Still totally worth it, but you're not gonna wake up one day and have a week to live and wish that you spent more time telling dick jokes to strangers.
Exactly.
Darn. You might wake up and wish you spent more time, with your parents before, So it's that kind of thing that I didn't expect to really like hit me, I guess, the way that it has, and make me not nostalgic, like, I wish this or that, so much as I'm like, I still have the opportunity to do that. I still have the opportunity to decide what success is. And I don't think it's necessarily a specific metric that other people tell us that it is.
Right.
I love that.
All right, next question. What takes up too much of your time?
Podcasts. God dang. So many podcasts. No. What takes up too much of my time? I actually just posted about this today, wondering like what other people are thinking about me. Like, trying to create, perpetually needing to create more content, perpetually feeling like you have to make your mark and you have to be seen, even in COVID times, which I think has made it almost, in some ways, like it's been a nice break. But then as somebody that's not like, I'm very much a report to set or whatever you want to do. But if I don't have a schedule, I could sit on my ass forever. if no one's waiting for me to turn something in, like, so I would say one of the things I'm most guilty of is the struggle between like keeping myself relevant and over worrying about what that even means,
Yeah,
absolutely. What's your favorite smell?
Smell Old Bay. No,
I was waiting for that.
No, because Old Bay kind of makes you think of like fishy things. No, that's my favorite. Gosh, that's tough. Favorite smell. I guess in general, I would say I like men's cologne, and not like not even like a sexual aspect, though it's sexy, but it's like warm, like earthy smells. I love the woods, and I do love men. So, yeah, I would say like that stuff is very comforting and makes me feel like, good stuff is about to happen, whether we end up in the woods or we end up in a dude.
What gets you fired up?
Oh God, stupidity.
So you're really pissed off regularly then.
Yeah, I'm a super logic-minded person, so people that do things that I just don't understand how they thought such a thing made sense really gets me like irritated. It could be any facet of life. But yeah, like specifically with driving, I think, and I'm not a road rage person, but I think I've thought about this, like maybe my calling in life is to teach driver's ed, because they don't teach the strategy of driving.
No.
Like, get the fuck out of the left-hand lane. What are you doing? How can you possibly be satisfied watching other people go around you on the right?
What do you wish you knew more about?
Oh, that's easy. I wish I knew more about tech and like things like editing and again, like going back to creation. I wish I was better at, concept to actual creation, like being able to make my own stuff happen without having to ask other people to help me figure stuff out. I really am tech retarded. I totally am. I hate to be the blonde stereotype, but I'm that girl. I'm like, oh my God, phones have a silent button. I didn't know.
The final question. What's the one question you would want everyone you meet to answer?
What are your intentions? Why am I talking to you? I think that's everybody, right? Yeah, no, I think everybody that I meet, I guess I would want to know what they want out of the night or out of the day. That tells me if we're on the same page and if we're, out for the same stuff kind of thing. And I think you draw that to yourself. You're mostly going to run into and have conversations with people that are on your same page or that are there to get you to the next thing. But it's always helpful when somebody, love it or hate it, like there is something to be said for someone that's just visibly an asshole all the time.
Yeah, you know what you're getting.
Like,
you know what you're getting.
Yeah, you're not like going up to the like drunk guy spilling shit like, I feel like you'd be a really good dad.
All right, shameless plugs. Plug away there, darling. Tell us what you got going on.
I think the best thing for me to plug is always my Insta. That's @trophycomic. I'm trying to get better at Twitter, which is also @trophycomic. And then I will have my specials coming out at the end of October, which will be plugged via what I just said, @trophycomic. Comic @trophycomic.
You like boobs and inspirational quotes.
I promise you those things. And I'm gonna make I'm gonna get a verbal confirmation right now because we do have Fuck, Marry, Kill, the podcast coming out, so you both have to do it.
Yes, I'm into it.
Sounds good.
I'm so into it.
Yeah, we've been taping and we've been doing some cool shit with it, and it's actually a show that's been pitched to Quibi.
Nice.
As a game show, but yeah, so you both have to do it. You have to.
I will. I'm gonna have it on
We're
video
down.
now.
Yeah, now we have evidence.
And you have to let me come and stay at your place in Florida.
Yes. Yes.
Anytime. That's
Or visit me in Atlanta because you're not too far.
not too far. No.
No. When we get off this call, I'll text you the details.
I love that. I know. I was like, and I get to stay at your place at 135 Meadowland Lane in Hollywood, Florida. and is it a right turn? Blue house, white shutters.
Is it with a red door? Yeah,
You
that's
leave the
us.
house key under the mat, right?
There's a little rock in the corner.
Your dogs don't bark, right?
And then if you guys want to follow me on TikTok, if you get it wherever you live or whatever, if it's not blocked where you are, it's Dani Daniels TikTok. And then like all my websites, my OnlyFans, everything's at Dani'sThings.com.
Yeah, and if you want to follow Danny's OnlyFans and put in a note that it's for Walker Hayes, who's not allowed to have an OnlyFans, that's fine too.
Yeah, and as usual,
Wait. And go check out Walker's episode of Dinner with Dani on Amazon.
Yes!
called the Sausage Fest. That's the name of that episode. And get my book, Wait for the Corn. Also on Amazon. Also based a lot on Dinner with Dani.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's so good to catch up with you and hang out and see you and like, I don't know, like this has been really cool because like every podcast episode we just like catch up with our friends.
Yeah, people that we haven't seen in, since.
I know. Well, because we were supposed to hang out in, I think it was March.
Yeah.
Well, we were gonna.
Like literally like right after.
Yeah, we were starting to plan season 2, and then.
Yeah.
That's
So,
right.
Sooner or later.
We'll figure something out.
We'll figure something out.
I love you guys.
I love you.
Love you too.